Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we will be doing a little bit of an experiment with some Temus fabric. I'm going to point out now that the video is not sponsored by Temu. Okay, however, if you do want the fabrics that I used, I'll put the link in the description box down below for you. Nevertheless, this video was created due to one of my subscribers asked me about Temus fabric. She wanted to know if they washed properly. I had another subscriber, I apologize, don't remember the names, asked me about making a Easter project. So I've incorporated both of those within this video. So I've made an Easter table runner, and I've also answered the question about the fabrics with Temu. So I have used Temu's fabrics obviously to make the quilt, and I have also gone through the process of washing the quilt so that we can see whether or not it actually bleeds. Okay, so I'm going to leave the end result down to you and you can make a decision from that. So let's get right into the video and I'll see you on the end, guys. Alright, so let's get started on this tutorial. I am using Temu's fat quarters here. I have trimmed mine down to 18-inch square. I'm not sure exactly of the size, I didn't measure it, but you will get most likely over 18 inches. But I've trimmed it down just to make sure all sides are even to an 18-inch square. I'm going to be using 2 sets of fat quarters for this project. However, I will not be using all of it. My outcome is to make an Easter table runner, and also to answer the question that the 2 persons have asked. So I've had 2 subscribers have asked me to make an Easter project, and the other has asked me to show the testing of Temu's fabric, the washing process of the actual fabrics. So what I am doing here is cutting it into quadrants. So I've done 4 here, so I've divided it into 4, which makes it 4.5 per column, and I'm doing it horizontally and vertically, just measuring those cut lines. Now I am not going to wash the fabric before I start the project. That is not what I do normally. I am going to treat this experiment as I would normally my fabrics. Now I have made several quilts out of Temu's fabrics. I've only washed one since, and that one is a wall hanging which I made initially. That was my first one I actually made, and I will put a picture of that one up. Or I can actually take the camera and show it to you because it's still on my wall as a wall hanging, and I absolutely loved it. I made it last year, and as I said, it was my first Temu project for fabrics. So today is answering the question of those 2 subscribers. One to make a project for Easter, and the other one is to test the fabric. So the project is going to be a table runner, but in the shape of an Easter egg. So I'm going to continue here with my marking. So I've done my first here, and I'm just going to do the other one until I achieve it all together. So the objective here is to make half square triangles really quickly, without any sort of cutting them down to small pieces individually. So trying to do a quick process here. So I'm just going to be quiet for a minute while I concentrate on getting my 4.5-inch squares. Alright, so what I'm doing now is to draw my horizontal lines. Now you may think this is a bit of a long process, but doing this way will definitely save you a little bit of time in making your half square triangles. Alright, so My horizontal and vertical lines is basically to outline my squares and where they are, and then my vertical line here from point to point in each of the squares is to identify where I am going to be stitching on both sides. I hope that makes sense to you, but I'm sure you will understand it once I start cutting. So again, I'm just drawing my line from point to point as you would normally if you were making half square triangles individually. In this instance, all I am doing is making a bulk of them quite quickly using my fat quarter. That's the only difference here. It just cuts down on the time having to make them individually. That's the only difference. So try not to feel like you are not doing it correctly, please. It really isn't that much of a big deal. Okay, so just keep calm. I know this might be a little bit frustrating for some doing it in this way, but it's really is an easier way of working, and just makes life a little bit more easier. It really does, because I really want to make this project as quickly as possible. All right, so these are my lines here, so I'm going to point them out yet again. So the lines running from point to point in each block, these are my lines that I'm going to guide where I'm going to stitch on either side. So that's going to be my cut line. Ideally, all the lines that I have cut is cut lines basically, because once I have stitched this all the way down here on both sides, that's my cut line. This is my cut line here. Then now to make them individuals, isn't it? The same way along here. So what I'm going to do is pin these so that it wouldn't move when I go to the sewing machine, and then all is good basically. So I'm just going to pin it as much as possible, just because I don't want it to move, otherwise I'll have to put it back on the mat and readjust yet again. So just pin. And for your color palette, you can use whatever colors you want. Ideally, I really sort of wanted like a purple and yellow, but I didn't have any purple. I think I've used them all of the fat quarters for Temu. I didn't want to use any other fabric because at the end of the day, I want to be true and honest to the testing of the fabric. All right, so I'm going to go to the sewing machine now and sew on either side first of all of the lines are going point to point in each of the individual squares here. Once I've come back, then I'm going to cut them up in front of you. All right, so I'm going to sew now, and as I said, sew on either side of that line. I've done my first stitches already on the right side. Now I'm going to do the left side. What I wanted to point out as a reminder is that you are laying your guide for your 1/4 inch feet on the diagonal line from point to point in the center of the square to actually get your 1/4 inch. So I hope that makes sense. So the guide, or you're lining up the edge of your 1/4 inch on that line there, okay, in the middle that we've just joined from point to point to achieve the 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to sew all the way down on either side. By the way, I'm using Temus thread for compiling the quilt also, so that we have a holistic view of the whole thing. Right, so hopefully you can see the purple lines where I've stitched on both sides. So now I'm going to cut, and on that side also. What I would want to add at this point, just as a reminder, in case I didn't mention it before, that both fabrics are laying front sides together. So once we peel it back, we will have our half square triangle. So remember that your fat quarters must lay front sides together before you start your marking. All right. And that's it basically. Now I have used I think a permanent pen here. I mean, no big deal. It's going to be washed anyway, so I don't see an issue, so I wouldn't worry about that. Okay. I just used what was at hand because, as you know, when I picked up the first one, it was not marking. So I'm just going to use my lines to get my straight cut. So I can either do two things. I can either separate and then cut, but I'm going to separate in this area first, and then I will do the horizontal lines. So again, just using your marked lines. Remember, these now become your cut lines. So that's one done. So in essence, you are making quite a lot of half square triangles very quickly. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. In essence, you're going to be getting 2 out of these. All right. So very quickly, you literally have done half square triangles. Cutting out the labor, because I must admit it is not something I actually enjoy making. I guess that's the reason why I don't necessarily use half square triangles in my pattern, because I don't really like making them, because I know they always have to end up being squared up, and it's one of the things I don't enjoy, squaring up a fabric. Squaring up the block, I don't necessarily enjoy it. So those are one of my pet peeves actually of making a quilt, just that half square triangle. I just hate, I don't mind squaring up a bigger block, but I don't like squaring up the smaller blocks. I just think it's such a long-winded process. Does anybody else feel like that, or is it just me being lazy? Well, whether or not I'm being lazy, I always try to avoid it somehow. So I decided was to try this, and I think it's worked. This is the first time actually doing this, so I think it's working for me. Okay, right, so all that's done. That's just extra bits there. Done. So what I'm going to do now, I can either do two things. I could, oh, I forgot to stitch one there. Oh, Karen. So now I have to go back in. I still have to do it individually. I have to go back in and stitch on this side for these 3 squares. Ah, Karen, honestly. I try to give myself a shortcut, and I still have to do it the long way. Yeah, my laziness did not prevail this time. All right, so I can either take my square individually. I'm going to remove those 3 because I don't want to have to cut them. So, I mean, it would take me less than 5 minutes to do that. So you can do now, so that long line in the middle that we stitched on both sides now becomes our cutting line yet again. And you can just line it all up and go all the way down. And hey presto, you have half square triangles done in a jiffy. A jiffy. Who says that? In a jiffy. Showing your age, Karen, showing your age. Be careful. Right, so that's that there. Right, so those are my 3 I've got to go back and stitch because I stupidly forgot to stitch them. You know what? I was looking outside the window. It's my fault. Not paying attention to what I was doing. I was listening to the birds because they're making a holler. I was wondering if they see a snake or something because they were making lots of noise. So that is what I was wondering. What made me did not. They've stopped now. I'm not hearing them anymore. They've calmed down because when they start going, woo hoo hoo, You gotta go on and out. What the hell is going on with you guys? Loud as ever. All right, so what I'm going to do is open one of these up so you can have a look. And you can see how you have just made half square triangles. So lovely and easy. Look at that. Brilliant, isn't it? So easy. I think we get 32 out of this because obviously we had 16 squares altogether. And all you need to do now is either square it up. You can use one of these slotted ones. See, it looks even actually. Oh, yes, 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 yes. It is even. I don't need to square anything up. Excellent. Beautiful. So what I need to do is simply, I'm going to use my slotted ruler here and just, I'm telling you, this is probably the third time I've actually used this ruler. That's how much I don't like making half square triangles. I just don't see the point in having to square. So you don't need to square. It now becomes a perfectly 4-inch block. Beautiful. I love it when a plan works out. All right, so let's do another one. What I would add as well is that once I finish sew, that's my iron saying, hey, you're not using me, so I'm going to switch off. Once I did do all the lines, what I did do was just iron it, the whole fat quarter, after I stitched my lines or my stitches, my diagonal and my horizontal stitches, the vertical stitches, so all of those stitches. Once I did all of that, what I did was went and just give the whole fat quarter a nice press, just to set those seams so I don't have to do it individually. All right, and that's it. So I'm going to continue with all of this, and then we'll come back and you can see, because it doesn't need trimming up. And that's one of the good things about measuring, is because it's nice and straight. You're following the lines. Okay, I will give you a little pattern at the end so that it's easier to remember rather than I having to remember to give you the measurements. Okay, so there it is. So everything nice and equal. You don't even need your slotted trimmer at all. All right, so I'm going to finish that and then I will continue. Alright, so I got myself some batting, length and width that I desire. I will put it in the details for you. However, you can do whatever length and width that you want. What I have done is make a curve here with some black marker so that you're able to see it. And all I did really is measured from one point on the batting so that once I curve, that side will be equated on both sides. So hopefully you can see the dot there and on this side as well as. So I just lined it all up, put the dot, and then draw the curve. So you can do like a dot to dot curve. So you can do a center and you do a dot to dot and then to the end there, dot to dot. So that way your curve, everything line up equatedly. All right. So the next thing what I'm going to do now is use my nice sharp scissors and cut. Just one point of reference is that do not cut it like this. I would definitely say open it up and you can cut it. All right, you can fold it as well and cut it so that once you cut, you're doing one set of cuts already and you don't have to try to get the other side the same. So that way the both edges will be the same curve. Okay, the other thing I need to warn you about is that make sure your batting is nice and straight and level. So I'm just going to cut it now. And don't get too, stressed about this, really. This is supposed to be a fun project, so keep it fun. Don't stress yourself out about little things, because ideally you don't really see these things, these mishaps, when you are actually sewing. So I've got a little bit of a peak there. I'm just going to take off that and make it lovely and round. This is no rubbish. And if I open it up, I've got a lovely sort of oval shape with it. All right, so I'm happy with that sort of egg looking shape. I'm not too stressed about how perfect it has to be. I'm just making sure again it's not too peaked at the top. I'm just giving it a nice rounded look to it. All right. Excuse me. Now I've also put a line in the middle there so that you can see. So when it was folded, sorry, when it was folded, I actually lined it up and I did a little bit of marking. With my half square triangles, I went ahead and made this pattern here, which you'll probably identify as a flying geese, or I like to call it like an arrow pattern. And I'm going to lay it right in the middle, so seam line on there. So this is going to be a quilt as you go. All right, I am not too worried about whether it meets the edges or not, because I am going to trim it up once I am done. Okay, so I'm just starting that with in the middle there. Now you can, this is really just on a whim here. I am really just putting the fabrics down. I am not too worried about where thing goes. I'm just starting this one off the middle. I am going to be adding some strips. I may as well add in a couple more of these because obviously, as you know, there is quite a lot. Okay, and add some more fabrics on the end. So that's the objective. What I am going to do though is literally do a straight stitch right in the middle there so that I know this is down. Okay, you can glue base if you want, if you feel that it will stay in place, but ideally I think a bit of a pin is fine. You don't have to use your spray glue, but it's up to you, your choice. All right, so I'm gonna just do a straight stitch down there just to hold it down. Ideally the line is to make sure that it's equated on both sides so that it's equal. That's the objective for having that line down the middle and then adding the rest of your strips of fabric to the end. However you lay it out is entirely down to you. It doesn't really matter any way, shape or form. Okay, so I'm going to start with that and then I'm going to come back with laying it all out. As I said, it's a quilt as you go. So with each addition, I'm just going to start adding and stitch. So it's going to be a stitch and flip for each until I get to the end. All right guys, so what I have done here, I have not basted it. All I've done is to add the batting and the backing together. All right, so I'm just going to give it a quick baste, and then once I've done that, then I'm going to start building my quilt as you go for my table runner. So all I've done at this point is to do a straight line stitch on the middle of the batting. It is not stitched onto the backing, only the batting here. Okay, so that's all I have done. But now I'm just going to get start making this quilt as you go. But I am going to do it with the backing on at the same time. So as I said, I'm just going to put strips along here, different sides, different width of strips on either side. I may also add some of the half square triangles also. So we're going to continue with that. I'm going to do one half and come back and show you, and then I'll complete the other half, and then we will trim and bind the whole thing together. Once I've done that, then I will simply just throw it in the wash and see what it comes out like, and then we'll take it from there. right, so here is the completed product. I haven't done any further quilting on it. It is just simply as is, as a quilt as you go, so no meandering or anything like that. It looks really gorgeous. I'm loving the colors. The whole layout is just simply lovely. All right, so what I'm going to do is to now take it to the washing machine, give it a wash and see what it looks like, and see if it changes in any way. That is the back. The back is really nice. I've used linen on the back, but I'll show you again. So we will compare and see what it looks like once it's all completed. But it looks pretty good. Happy with the results. All right, so we're at the washing machine. So it's not dirty or anything, but what I am going to do is put it on a rinse and spin cycle. So I'm going to put it on and turn the dial till it gets to rinse and spin. So that is 22 minutes. So it's in the drum already. It's a pretty huge drum. It's the only thing in there. So I'm going to put it on and see what happens. So I'll give it 22 minutes. It's on cold. I don't think I need warm or anything. As I said, it's not soiled, so it should be all right. And then we'll press start. All right, so it has started. Okay, so this is just as interesting as for me as it is for you. 22 minutes later, we'll take it out and see what it looks like. All right, so you can hear the cycle going. It's been about 4 minutes now. You can see 16 minutes there. I'm thinking of stopping it and see what it looks like. If the water has changed any color, it should by now. So the machine is going to react because you're not supposed to do this. So there you go. All right, so the water looks really clear, so no color bleeds. Okay. So far the fabrics from Temus is performing well. All right, so let's close it and press start again and continue. All right, the cycle is done, so let's take it out and see what it looks like. All right, it looks all right. Okay, I'm gonna put it outside to dry and see what happens next. Okay, so it's drying. It is now, the time is I'll tell a lie, the time is 5:20. So it's drying. Sun is still hot, so I'm gonna leave it for a few hours. The sun doesn't go down until a little bit late. If not, then I will finish up the video tomorrow. But for now, oh, you can hear all the crickets going. Still, I don't know why they're making so much noise. But anyway, so that's it. Let's go closer in. Oh, what the hell? You're pretty loud, mate. All right, so I'm going to give it 20 minutes or so. The sun is still hot, but yeah. All right, so it is completed now. All of the washing is done. All of the drying is done. So what I would say is that for this experiment, it worked. There was no drainage or the color didn't run or anything like that. What I didn't show you initially was that when I created it, or when I made it, I should say, I didn't do any stitches in the ditch or anything like that. I just simply sewed it together and it was basted with the glue. So what I did notice, because I didn't add any stitches, any further stitches to it, it needed that stitch in the ditch. So I came back after it was dried and I stitched it in the ditch. So it's all completed now, and I did some stipples at the top. So let me show you, and then you can make your own judgment for yourself. So I hope for the person, I do apologize, I have not looked up your name, but I will put it on the screen, who asked about the fabrics, whether or not they wash carefully. The answer is yes. And I have not hidden anything from you. I have nothing to gain by doing that. I know some of you out there are going to think, oh, she's lying. I am not. It is simple, as I showed you. As simple as that. I didn't hide anything at all. So that's it. So let me show you what it looks like. All right, so here it is. So this is the areas I was referring to. So you can see where I've stitched in the ditch. and I've did some stippling here, whereas that was not there before. The colors is still just as vibrant, so really nothing has changed about it. You can see where the ripples where I've stitched it down. My only argument, I would say, and that's to do with me, is that it does not look very eggish. It looks very oblong, but nevertheless, I think I achieved the objective, is what I wanted, to make something oval or round in this particular instance, so I think it was all right. But that's my only objective. I think I did not make it very egg shaped. For this one here, I forgot now, my brain escapes me. That looks really nice. Also really easy technique to make the half square triangles, which came about very quickly. On the back, I did do some piecing, so you can see the back is a lighter fabric. So again, hence there is no error of anything bleeding on either of the fabrics. These are my fabrics. These are all linen, different pieces of fabrics that I've put together. I did use some egg-shaped ones here. You can see some thread on. So yeah, so other than that, that was it really. Really came out nicely. No issues. Change it background so you can see, but it's lovely and vibrant, just as the way I put it in. And I put it in on its own. There was nothing else in there with it. So that's the complete. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. All right, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Happy quilting. Love you lots.